With PSG season set to start in roughly a week or so as of the recording of this video, I wanted to make my sort of early predictions for the UEFA Super Cup and also for the sort of my early premonitions onto PSG season. So as we speak today, the 4th of August, PSG are set to play Tottenham in the UEFA Super Cup on Tuesday, the 13th. And my sort of overarching feelings about this game is that, number one, if you go and you look at it, thus far PSG in the transfer window have been very quiet, to say the least. Thus far, the only major notable signing that they've made is the young keeper from Roma. The notable departures are Milan Skriniar leaving the club. There's talks that potentially, Asensio could leave, but bar that, there's not really been many coming ins or going outs. Obviously, in terms of potentials and whatnot, there's obviously the news that the Ẓăbărni deal should hopefully be done sooner rather than later. But hey, with PSG, we've seen weirder things happen, so that's not a done deal. And obviously, the 𝙭𝙊𝘿𝘾𝘼 deal as well. But again, it's still pending. So thus far, at least as we speak, there's really no changes to the squad for PSG. Even Donnarumma, as much as, all the fanfare going around with him, as we stand, Donnarumma is still a PSG player, and there doesn't really seem to be many clubs that have shown, a great deal of interest for him. So thus far, the squad is going to be the exact same as finished the season, a couple weeks ago in that Chelsea Club World Cup game. And now to come into my sort of early thoughts and early predictions for this game, as also, a Spurs, supporters as well. I'm not going to lie, as a PSG fan, I'll go and say that I'm a bit more nervous than I probably should be for this game. And, maybe it's just me being pessimistic, but for reference, PSG, I'm recording this video on a Monday the 4th of August. PSG take training 2 days from now. So we're talking about the Wednesday, and then if I'm not mistaken, they will have a week to prepare for the final. And it's not like, they're coming back. They have a week to prepare after being 3 weeks off. And I know, I guess, it's not like they've been out for, 6 weeks and whatnot. It's been a relatively short time, but to go and to do your entire preseason basically condensed to a week's time, I have no idea what the fitness of the players is going to be, because at the very least, the good thing in the fact that we haven't brought in, many recruits and whatnot, it means that there's not going to be any, new systems to adapt to and whatnot. The team that's going to finish or that's going to play against Spurs, next week in the Super Cup final, assuming everybody's fit and whatnot, and assuming we line up our best squad, is going to be very similar, if not identical, to the team that played against Chelsea in the Club World Cup final, with obviously the addition of Pacho, assuming again everybody's fit. And my issue isn't necessarily the technical ability and whatnot, but really for me, it's the fitness, because I don't think you can build up match fitness in a week's time. And you compare that to Spurs, who when PSG were playing their Club World Cup game, if I'm not mistaken, Spurs had already come back for preseason training. The golf in fitness, I think, could potentially be really, really, really pertinent. And especially for a team like PSG that relies so much on fitness, on intensity of runs, on high intensity runs, pressing and whatnot, it could really hurt us. But maybe it's me being a bit, overly cautious, overly, pessimistic, and seeing things in a really negative light. But I potentially think, and I really do think that potentially that game could be a bit of a cage one. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult than we can think. I've had a couple looks at, how Spurs have been playing, and they've been okay. Obviously, Thomas Frank, they've got a new manager, they've brought in new players as well, so there's a lot of adaptation for them. But the key difference for them is, sure, maybe we have the I won't say experience, but the know-how, the togetherness already, the cohesion, the squad cohesion over them. But what they will have in spades over us is fitness. Especially also, you think Premier League intensity, especially Spurs and whatnot, I think they're going to potentially be a lot fitter than us. And given that PSG's games, yes, of course, we're extremely technical, we can keep the ball and whatnot, but off the ball, our press and whatnot is extremely physically demanding. And if we're not at our, ideal fitness levels, I think we could really potentially suffer in that domain. So it's going to be curious to see how Luis Enrique lines up. I'd be curious to see if, do we put our strongest lineup there? Because I'm also thinking of it, it's bizarre, because on the one hand, you go and say, yes, it's a trophy, there's a trophy on the line. But on the other hand, I wouldn't want to go and rush people in to play that game just for somebody to be injured for 3 months. But at the other hand too, this trophy, if we win it, is another trophy for us to tick off in our search now for the sextuple. The septuple is no longer available, but the sextuple is still very much available with the UEFA Super Cup as well as the Intercontinental Cup in December. So it's bizarre. It's bizarre because on the one hand, we shouldn't jeopardize our whole first half of the season for a Super Cup trophy. But on the other hand, the Super Cup trophy is a trophy that would count into making our season or this year for us, 2025, even more historic. So I'm not sure. I think we'll be able to go and get back to fitness. Obviously, I'm, following, the players and whatnot on, social media and whatnot. You see Marquinhos is already, following his fitness plan. Hakimi, same thing. Donnarumma, all these. So they seem to be keeping relatively fit. But the issue is that they haven't played, in a week. And I'm going to be really, really, really curious to see maybe, the week of training is just going to be getting them back to match fitness, playing against, the reserve team or playing against relative teams. I'm not sure if, PSG is going to organize a game against some local, team in Paris that's, a few leagues below. But honestly, right now, it's just getting reps and getting used to playing that high intensity. I mean, obviously, we might look and say, it's only been, 3 weeks or so since PSG played that, Club World Cup final against Chelsea. But 3 weeks is a long time, for you to recuperate. We see what, 2 weeks or a week and a half does, in the winter. Now imagine 3 weeks where players, were going, enjoying themselves like they should do, obviously. It could hold significant bearings. And honestly, even before, I've said my things about the Club World Cup and whatnot, but this was one of, for me personally, the massive downsides of this. It's just looking at the intensity. I mean, I know other clubs like, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, they've come back a lot earlier. And these were teams that, Real Madrid, obviously, even though we beat them, I mean, their season finished, we'll go and say, only a couple of days before ours did. So there's not a significant difference there. But I guess they prioritize the fact of bringing their players back and getting them back into it. Whereas, Bayern and whatnot haven't. But the difference with them is that, they're playing, like the game against Spurs is, you could almost see it as our preseason game. Your Bayern, Real Madrid are going to, their league starts, a couple weeks from now afterwards, whereas PSG, everything starts going right from the get-go. So it's going to be really curious to go and see how Luis Enrique, PSG, and all the players, go and take this on. I still do think that, PSG should be able to get the job done if, all things, knock on wood, go as planned. And hopefully we are lifting that trophy the 13th of August. And listen, worst case scenario, I'd still be disappointed and whatnot. But hey, if Spurs win it, I won't be all that disappointed. That's just another trophy that Spurs would have over Arsenal. Either way, it's going to be a tough one for Arsenal fans. I'd be curious to know what you guys think of this video. I'm going to be away, or I'm going back to Canada for the month of August. So I'm going to try to record, a bunch of, videos right now, just to have, a bit of a catalog. I will also be posting, or try my best to post back in Canada, but just a quick little heads up that you're not going to be seeing nearly as much content from me in this, upcoming month. But again, to close off, I'd be curious to know what you guys think about this whole ordeal. Who do you guys think are favorites? Do you think that the fact or the lack of fitness of PSG is going to play a significant part in the Super Cup final? Or do you think that PSG is going to be just fine and they are going to go and steamroll their way to yet another trophy? I'd be curious to know what you guys think. And remember, stay safe, stay kind, and stay blessed. Godspeed.